Hello, everyone. You're watching the Lowellian, and I'm Alessandra Fisher, going to be your host for today. And I'm here with Nikki and Carisa for the Center for Lowell History. So, would you mind to share a little bit about yourselves and the center?
Yes, so my name is Nikki Tannum, and I am the Digital Initiatives Archivist at the Center for Lowell History. I kind of take care of more of the digital presence of the center and getting things online, and I also oversee our community archives.
And I'm Carisa Coleus. I'm the Public Services and Special Collections Archivist at the Center for Lowell History, and I do a lot of the work with the researchers who come in and researchers who contact us online, and I also take care of our archival collections and our rare books.
Mm-hmm. Can you share what type of documentations do you collect?
Yeah, we collect historic archival collections and books, including things like photographs, newspapers, letters and journals, maps, atlases, art and music, and so much more.
Mm-hmm. We also have community archives as well, so we have all these types that we also collect from different communities around Lowell.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Can you expand a little bit on that?
Yeah, so Lowell has such a vibrant history, and we really worked to make sure that the archives reflects that history. So we have a couple different projects that we've developed over the years to work with specific communities. So we currently have projects around the Southeast Asian, Portuguese, Latinx, and Greek communities, but we have collections from all different types of communities around Lowell. And so we work within these communities to make sure that their history is well represented, because it hasn't always been documented well. So we want to make sure that all of Lowell is shown in the archives. So we have projects dedicated to making sure that these communities are well represented.
Mm-hmm. So you kind of like answer my question, but I will ask anyway. Mm-hmm. Knowing today what's going on, why is it so important, to collect these documentations?
Yeah, I think it's really important just to be able to share all the different types of stories that every community has. Mm-hmm. No community has one type of story. And to us, it's really important as archivists that we're showing all aspects of history and all the different types of stories there are. So today, especially in Lowell, we have a lot of immigrant populations. And it's really important for us to show how much the immigrants really bring to our community and how much we value what they've brought and how important it is to save their history. Not everyone always thinks of their own history as important to the overall story of the city, but it really is. So we want to really highlight the good stories out there of people who are contributing to the community, even as far back as the 1800s, which not everyone always thinks about these stories going so far back, but we've always had immigrants here in the United States, and so we make sure to document that history.
Mm-hmm. And February is Black History Month.
Yes.
So I was wondering if you could share a little bit about the struggles, the challenges to collect the materials from that community. Mm-hmm. You mentioned immigrant community, but any other community that struggles keep information like photos and rely a lot of oral traditions. Mm-hmm. How can you share how difficult this process is or has been for you to represent that community? Yeah, for sure. Is it okay if I take this one?
Yes, absolutely.
So we do have a couple different ways that we collect these histories that haven't always been collected. So throughout history, I wouldn't say that these different diverse communities have always had their history really, respected and documented. Although at the center, I will say that for the past couple decades, they've done a really good job of collecting this history. So there's lots of people who came before us and we're just continuing that work. But it is difficult to sometimes gather this history, especially when communities don't always have the resources to be collecting their own history. A lot of people, they might have their own things in their attic, but not think of how important it is to bring to somewhere like an archive. So we really try to reach out and be proactive and remind people that those stories are, important and that we're interested in them. And you mentioned, I think, oral traditions as well. And we have a really strong oral history collection at the center. Again, so many people before us did this work where we have, I think it's over maybe around 500 interviews with people from as early as the 1960s where they shared stories verbally about their history. So even if we don't have the documents that talk about each of these unique stories, we do have people who get to tell the traditional stories of their communities, which is really important, and we use it a lot in our work, those kinds of interviews as well.
Oh, wonderful. Can you tell us, aside from educators, they use the material for research, and how can people like me that want to learn more about the history can access the information?
So we will work with anybody. We welcome anybody into the archives to do research. We are so excited when we see a community member, a student from UMass Lowell, but also people from all over the country and all over the world that we work with. And so basically, if somebody wants to come in and do research with us, we do ask them to make an appointment so that we can prepare for their research time ahead of time. A lot of our collections are we have very large collections, and so it takes time for us to dig through those things and pull them out for whatever topic it is that somebody is coming into research. And we do take the time to dig ahead of time so that we are ready for each of our appointments. And so we ask people to email us at our email address, which is archives@uml.edu, or on our website we have a contact us page, which has a form you can fill out, and it has all the information that we need from you in order to set up an appointment. And that's a really excellent way to reach us because it comes up with all the different things that we would be asking you back after you emailed us anyways. So it's all right there, like tell us what your research topic is and things like that.
Great, thank you. And how can we contribute to the center?
So the Center for Lowell History does take donations. We have very limited amount of space at this point, and so what we always ask people to do is if they think that they have something of unique historical value, that they get in touch with us, again, via our email. And when they do that, we will talk through what that item is. We always look and see if it's already in our collection, because there is so much history that can be documented that we do have to make sure it's unique and historical. We only will keep a couple copies of each item because we just don't have the space. And I mean, we could fill warehouses with just the history of Lowell, never mind like the whole world, right? And so we do have to make sure as we're taking in collections that we're careful in order to be reflecting the whole community, as Nikki was talking about earlier, and not just documenting the rich and powerful, but everybody's stories. And so we kind of evaluate on a case-by-case basis when people are bringing things to us, and we work with the donors. Anybody whose item we can't take for one reason or another, we make sure we get them in touch with somebody else.
So I see that you brought some documents to share with us, and I will ask, to take a moment so we can prepare to share the documents with you guys. So can you share a little bit about what you brought here today?
Yes. I brought this pick-out from 1952. The pick-out was the Lowell Textile Institute's yearbook. I particularly enjoy the cover on this. As you can see, it is wrapped in fabric, which is a nod to the origins of the school, where the school was originally founded as a institution to educate the textile workers here in Lowell and from around the world. By the 1950s, when this yearbook was created, the school was shifting in missions and had become much more focused on science and engineering in particular. And in fact, the very next year, the school wound up changing its name to the Lowell Technological Institute to better reflect what they were doing to educate their students at the time. If Nikki could open up to the page I have marked. One of the things that I really enjoy about yearbooks is that they can reflect a lot about the culture and even the individual groups of students that it is a yearbook for. And in this particular year, you can see, this is just one example of a page. The whole yearbook is themed after how the manufacturing process and how the manufacturing process of textiles is like the process of getting your education. For example, on this page, it begins the section which introduces the underclassmen, so the freshmen, sophomores, and juniors in the yearbook, and their class presidents and things like that. And there is a quote which says, "A haphazard bale of student raw material waiting to be separated and graded by professor education. The sharp tongs of learning will pick apart and orient the amorphous minds they penetrate." And then alongside this image, you can see right here is an image of a bale of cotton with students bursting out of various points of it. I just find that a delightful theme. This goes through the whole yearbook. Every section has one of these illustrations and quotes to introduce the section, and tying education to something historical having to do with the school, like the textile manufacturing process, I think is so fun. I will say at the Center for Lowell History, we do have almost a complete collection of both of our parent schools and eventually the University of Lowell and UMass Lowell's yearbooks. However, we are really lacking in terms of the Lowell High School yearbooks, and we're always on the hunt for Lowell High School yearbooks. So if anybody out there has a Lowell High School yearbook that they would be interested in donating, please get in touch with us, and we would be happy to talk to you about having that join our archives.
Awesome.
Very interesting.
And I can share something as well. That's okay. So the Center for Lowell History, which, as Carisa mentioned, is part of the University of Massachusetts Lowell, we do house the university archives, but we're also an archive for the entire city of Lowell, of course. So I brought an item from our photograph collection. We have many photograph collections at the Center for Lowell History. This one is from the City Engineers Collection, which is a collection of photographs, about a couple hundred photographs from the 1910s to the 1920s in Lowell. And this is kind of a fun example because in archives, you actually never really know where you might find the answer to something that you're looking for. So with this collection, the city engineers were in charge of making any repairs to public property in the city of Lowell. So this would include like potholes on streets, or if an electrical pole fell, they would have to fix it. So part of their daily job was just to take photographs all around the city, to take pictures of everything that was broken. And at the time, it probably just seemed like a mundane way to document their work. But now, 100 years later, it really shows what the city looked like at the time.
Yeah.
So it's really important to us to see, to show the different parts of the city. And this particular example is of the Pollard fire that happened in, let me get the date, in June 2nd, 1926. There was a fire at the Pollard department store, and this documents the aftermath. They would have been taking these photos because, of course, some of this rubble would have gone into the street. They would have had to help fix this building up. And so this really documents an important part of the story of Lowell that we might not have a photo of if it wasn't for the engineers department. And so we have many of the photos from this time at the center. A lot of them are up online, which you can view on our website, but a lot of them actually haven't been digitized yet either. So you can come in and make an appointment with us, and you can view all the photos that are in the full collection as well.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you for sharing it. So what's the most challenging, rewarding about maintaining this archive?
I would say two things really stand out to me. It's extremely rewarding for me when I'm working with students, those coming in to conduct research, but also we have a lot of student workers and interns who come in and work with us. And just getting the opportunity to work with them, give them professional experience in a field that they might not have otherwise been able to experience, and teaching them how we care for the archival collections. It's one of the best parts of my day working with them. The other highlight for me is learning something new every day. Every time when I'm going in to answer a question for a researcher or work with a researcher who's come in to do research, I find that I get to learn something new about an aspect of history that, even though I've been here working in Lowell for over 3 years, I had no idea about. And getting to dig into all that history of Lowell especially, it just scratches my itch of always wanting to be learning something new, which is like my personality. I'd say the biggest challenge is physical preservation, because obviously some of the materials that we have are very, very old. We have documents going back to like the 1680s. And so, as you can imagine, paper and photographs and things like that will degrade over time. And it's our responsibility to care for those and to try to do preservation on them and make sure that they're available for generations to come.
And for me, I think the most rewarding is definitely working with the community. A lot of my career has been working in community archives, and I just really love sharing the stories of Lowell and showing really how diverse and vibrant it is. So it's really fun to go into the communities and speak with people to learn more about their history, and then also just to remind them of how important their history really is to the story of Lowell. I just learned so much as well, just like Carisa said, every time I go into a new community. So it's really rewarding to be able to not only learn about these histories, but then be able to share them online like we do with a lot of our collections, so that anyone in the community can see their own history. That's really important. important to me. But I would say the most challenging part, which is connected to that, is deciding what to keep and what not to keep. We love history, so we are tempted to keep everything, and we would if we could, but we are limited on our space and our resources, and it is our job to make sure that we're using our space and resources to take the best care of the collections as possible and to make sure that they're okay for history. So we unfortunately can't take everything, even though we want to. So sometimes that can be really challenging, deciding what to keep and what not to keep.
Agreed.
And how folks can get through the catalogs?
Yeah, so we have information about most of our collections up online. So if you search the Center for Lowell History online, you should find us pretty easily. We're at the University of Massachusetts Lowell. If you go onto the website, on the left-hand menu, there is an archival collections option. And in there, there's our digital collections. We have over 100,000 items online, so anyone can view them as long as you have an internet connection. You can research all of our items online. But we also have a lot of collections that just we haven't had the time, the resources to get them online. So we have something called Finding Aids that you will also find on our website. And in archives, Finding Aids is a way for us to summarize collections, to tell researchers, community members more about what's in the collection. So even though we haven't scanned every item, you can look at our Finding Aids and find out more about what we have in person, so that when you come, you can tell us which items, which collections you're interested in, and we can pull them off the shelves and get them ready for you.
So that's it for today. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
And I hope you guys enjoyed. You are watching the Lowellian. I'm Alessandra Fisher. I'm here with Nikki and Carisa for the Center for Lowell History.